we are starting on time. Everyone knows. Gotta open the clear American. Let's go. What's up, y'all? I am back in Texas, back home. Did a quick trip out to Utah and Vegas. It was fun for Labor Day weekend. And yeah, it was. Oh, this is so bright. Alright, it's a little bit better. But yeah, it was super fun. Went out last Thursday, flew to Vegas. My flight was supposed to leave like 8 a.m., but it didn't leave until 12. No, literally as soon as I got to the airport, which I had to leave pretty early from the airport, for the airport, got there around 6:30 I think in the morning. This flight was supposed to leave at 8 a.m. Literally got a message as soon as I went through security saying your flight has been delayed till 12 p.m. So 4 hours. Even then, they said they had mechanical issues to the plane, so we didn't even board the plane until around like 1:30. Luckily, I made it there. Flight didn't get canceled. Plans didn't get ruined. That was a little bit of a scare, but everything worked out. Finally got to Utah. Then went out with my friend Garrett. We drove out to Vegas. It literally rained the whole time we were there, so it kind of sucked. But luckily, we were only there for one day. Went and saw my guy Drizzy Drake in the flesh and had a great time. Ate really good food. Didn't do a ton in Vegas, but drove back on Saturday and yeah, just kind of chilled the rest of the weekend. Went and saw Gran Turismo again, eating some more good food, and yeah, I can't complain. Came back. It was crazy. I was gone for like 6 days, but it was a nice trip, much needed. And we're back at it. It's Thursday night. Tomorrow's Friday. The weekend is almost upon us, so I'm excited for that. And you know what tonight is literally going on right now. I was watching the initial couple plays, but football is back. And I've done fantasy for a couple years now, but a couple of my friends are super into it, so I'm doing it. Doing a dynasty league as well with another guy down here in Austin, so it'll be good. Got pretty good picks. I got the number one overall pick for two of my drafts, and then the second to last pick on my last draft. But I think a pretty solid team. So we'll see how we finish this year. All right, since there is football going on, don't want to make this a super long live. This is actually a really good one, and I focus a lot on self improvement, success, how to make money, finances, how to invest, fitness, how to get stronger, how to get more aesthetic, and stuff like that in most of my videos, most of my lives. But this one, a little bit more focused on religion, just because it is actually kind of popping up in the news, a little bit more mainstream, especially nowadays. And whereas I put in like my thumbnail like Tate and his friend, his name's Jules, known as AKA Sartorial Shooter, which I've mentioned many times before in my lives. Tate, it's been a while. People already know he converted to Islam. Same with his friend Jules and a couple of the other friends. But their shift kind of from it's more of like a worldly view of life and success and lifestyle to more of like a religious view, I think is really interesting. And overall, I think it's a net positive. And me myself being really religious myself, I think it plays definitely an important part. And a lot of these other internet gurus that talk about stuff that you don't need religion and all that, and kind of like clarification. I don't care what anyone else does. You can do what you want with your life, especially if you're an adult. But I think a lot of people are definitely missing out on stuff if they don't really incorporate religion, specifically a base fundamental values in your life. I think you're missing out on a lot for yourself personally, and then for your future kids and offspring as well. And I'll kind of go into why that is and why I think it's so important and what it actually results into. So, first, I want to talk about there, like I said, a lot of people on just Instagram, and I don't watch TikTok. Glad I don't. Big time waster. I already waste enough time on Instagram, but there's a bunch of like influencers out there, the internet gurus and success gurus and stuff. And granted, I might be in that space. I do not self-proclaim myself to be a super successful person. I just want to help guys, just like in the basic stuff in life, specifically right now in my period of life, and not only helping guys, but to kind of document my journey along the way. One of the things I watch Alex Hormozy, I'm sure many people are familiar with him. One thing he really wished he'd done, and he actually kind of did towards when he started blowing up, being super successful, is documenting his first initial struggles. He always tells about his stories of him sleeping in the gym and stuff, but he never really documented that. So I think there's a great opportunity, kind of me starting off, graduating college, and kind of my journey to eventual success, document my journey along the way. It'll be good. I mean, even Joe Rogan did it himself with the Joe Rogan podcast. His first podcast was just like this crappy video that he just shot in his room with a friend, his crappy webcam, and now he's making hundreds of millions of dollars off Spotify and off of other business ventures as well. But I was talking about a lot of these influencers, success gurus. They talk about, oh, this is how they get the girls, this is how they get the muscles, this is how they get the money. A big aspect I think they're missing out on, where actually this is kind of why I somewhat entered the space. I know a few people do it. Rollo Tomassi, kind of the godfather of like Red Pill and stuff like that. He actually dives into religion a decent amount, not a ton, and he has a lot of controversial. I wouldn't say necessarily controversial views. I think he just kind of does it for clickbait, for interactions and engagement. Some of the stuff he says, especially tweets, but there's not a ton of people, if really any. I know Jules Sartorius Shooter is kind of getting more into it. Tate's been into it a little bit, but that's not what he's really mainly known for. Nor do I don't necessarily I want to know if I want to be mainly known for like I'm that religion guy in the space, but especially from my specific sect of Christianity, being from the Latter Day Saints church, there's no one really in that space right now, or no one from my church and my religion that's in the current space. So I think that's kind of where I have a unique edge, and we'll see kind of where it takes me. But and this is just in religion in general, so it's not specifically about my church and religion. This is going to be about religion as a whole. So most of these gurus, they don't focus on religion. The reason why, I think, is that they think it's all about money and power, what life is. And obviously money and power can get you a lot of things in life, but there's a lot of other things, especially comes with the spiritual and family and relationships, that it can't get you, that religion actually can. So I'm going to go through a bunch of different points why religion really is the missing key to success. Just because a lot of the people on the internet nowadays, they don't emphasize it, and they're like it's not a point that is relevant. So let's go ahead and hop into it. And if anyone has any questions or anything, just let me know in the chat. I have the chat pulled up. I actually minimized it a little bit just because my CPU is kind of running hot. Screen is super bright. So let's hop into it. I think first of all, this is not necessarily in any specific order, but religion provides a base foundation of morals, specifically as a child. I know when I was a kid growing up, going to church, learning about Jesus, being a good person, doing what Jesus did, helping other people, being charitable. What were some of the first memories I had just growing up as a kid, going to church, playing with the other kids, and then learning this stuff. And I think it really set a really good foundation, just because everyone, as they grow up, become a teenager, go into middle school, become a teenager, go into high school, they have the rebellious phase. And that's just every kid. That's just how it is. So your rebellious phase where you kind of try different stuff, you kind of get in trouble every once in a while. I mean, most for most of my childhood, I was kind of like the good child. I always kind of prided myself in that. I was never really much trouble. There's a couple things I did here and there, but nothing crazy, nothing worth a ton of concern for my parents. But every kid kind of goes through somewhat of a stage in that. For me, it was a little bit more mild. It was me kind of like, oh, I'm gonna hang out with my friends without telling my parents or whatever, or I'm gonna stay out later than I should be. I'm gonna go watch a movie that they said they don't want me to watch or something like that, or play a video game I'm not necessarily supposed to be playing. Mild things like that. Nothing crazy. Nothing illegal either. But it gives you a good base foundation of morals as a kid. And granted, I've never really grown up any different just because I know what I know. But based off of some of my friends and some other people I know, this is just basically off of just observation. So obviously, I don't have the actual lived experience of being in a situation, a childhood situation where I didn't go to church, didn't really have organized religion. But what I can observe and see from other people is eventually they kind of learn that stuff. Their parents tell them like, "Oh, you need to be a good person, and you need to help other people. You don't steal, don't do anything necessarily illegal or that hurts other people." But there's no like structure behind it. It's just kind of like I'm doing these things because it's inherently, I guess, a good thing. Whereas religion kind of frames it in a little bit more structured way. We do these things because God tells us to, not only just because God tells us to, but it helps us become more like Jesus Christ, and in this case, Christianity, helps us become eventually more like God. And the more good we do in life, the eventually we can go to heaven. That's kind of the end premise. Whereas if someone doesn't believe in religion or anything like that, they're just kind of like, I'm just doing this good stuff just to be a good person. And not necessarily saying you have to do good stuff because there's a reward or incentive at the end. I think initially that kind of fuels people, and that's anything. Like, why do I like, yeah, go to work? It's not because I necessarily, well, obviously you eventually learn to love the work that you're doing, but there's some stuff that like people don't want to do, but they do it anyway just because they're getting paid. So I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing for there to be initial incentive to cause someone to act or cause someone to do something, do a certain action. That's literally the definition of incentives. People historically do make decisions based off of past experiences, whether they benefited or not from it. So I think the point I'm trying to get at is it's a little bit more structured and gives you a little bit more of a frame of why you're doing certain things, why you have certain morals, because it makes a little bit more sense, I guess, logically as well in my mind, just because there's a reason why I'm doing this stuff rather than like I'm just being a good person just to be a good person. Obviously, we all strive to do that, but and maybe some people might have a little bit more what's the word I'm looking for? All ulterior motive for it. Like I'm being a nice person because if I'm a nice person, then someone else will reciprocate something back. It's like I scratch your back, you scratch mine, or if I help you out this one time, then you owe me type of a thing. Not saying everyone that doesn't have religion that does that. There's plenty of people that have religion that do that, have that type of ideology, but that's just kind of some thoughts I had. So a good base foundation more specifically as a child. And the reason why it's important as a child is when you're a kid, you're so easily moldable into and influenced by things, whether it be good or be bad. I think this is a good thing. So if you can instill it while you're young, you can carry it on when you're older, even your times when you're rebellious. You'll eventually outgrow that rebellious phase, and when you're an adult, specifically when you have your own kids, then you can pass those that base foundation of morals onto your kids as well, and that'll help carry you through whatever situations life throws at you. Next one, a standard to live by. Now, I had made a men's value live about this, or sorry, a men's value tip about this, and I was kind of influenced by my guy Sartorio Shooter just because he had a reel about it. How guys need to, specifically men, they need to live by a code or need to have a standard set for their life. Just because it provides accountability and it helps you grow and become the best version of yourself. And I think that's super important. A lot of times now in society, it's just kind of like do whatever you want. There's not really any consequences, and they're even changing a lot of laws. I'm not going to go into any specifics, but they're changing a lot of laws where if someone does something, makes certain life-altering decision, then they're not really they don't have to be responsible for it. And I don't agree with that. So it helps you set a standard to live by, and it gives you good experiences where, for example, I don't drink or smoke or anything like that. So whenever someone people offer to like, hey, have this drink or like whatever, I'm at a party or I'm at a happy hour with my coworkers, then or people ask me why specifically. I think this is the main question: is like why do you act like this, or why do you not drink, or why do you not do this, or why do you do this certain thing? And I get to explain why my conviction behind it and the reasoning behind it. And I think that's a really good thing, just because, I mean, think about if you think about the opposite. If I ask someone, just like, oh, why do you drink alcohol? They might say, well, I mean, I just kind of do it because everyone else does it. It's not really necessarily a good reason for it. So it's kind of good in both perspectives and both viewpoints. But a standard to live by is super important, especially when it comes to personal accountability and ultimately trying to become the best person you can. Just because people just don't randomly become great or very successful. It's because they choose to do certain actions that eventually leads to their success. And in order to do that, they have to set a standard. If you want to become really fit or really strong in the gym, you're not just going to just like, oh, I just accidentally went to the gym every single day at a certain time and did these certain exercises, and then over 5 years I got super strong. It just doesn't happen like that. Same with success and being successful in business or making a lot of money. You don't just happen to be like, oh, I just happened to become a billionaire or a millionaire. You have to set a standard for yourself, and religion really does a good job of setting a standard for which you can live. And really, the key to that is sacrifice. Just because you have to give up something in order to gain something in the long term. Give up something short term to gain something better. That'll benefit you more in the long term. All right, next, focus on family and tradition. All right, sorry, I'm just gonna occasionally check if I have any comments or whatnot. All right, I think we're good. So, focus on family and tradition. Now, this is really important just because society nowadays is kind of moving away from that. I think just look at statistics, like 40%, or not that much. Actually, it might be that much. 40% of kids are born out of wedlock, which I think is crazy. It's not really a stable household for them to live and grow up. And it's statistically proven, someone growing up in a single parent household is like eons more likely to like go to jail, not finish high school, not go on to college, just become addicted to some sort of drug. It's in the stats. So I think there needs to be a stable foundation, family foundation for a kid to grow up in. It's two parents in a household, and the focus on family and having kids and being parents, especially nowadays, especially when it comes to women. Society nowadays, like, oh, you can wait till you're like 40 to have a kid and stuff, and I guess science is kind of allowing that to happen still, but still a lot of risks involved, not only for the mother but for also the child as well. But society's kind of pushing that. Focus on your career, make your money, then you can have kids like later, or don't really focus on having kids. I mean, you look at South Korea and Japan, a couple of these other Asian countries, even China, when after they kind of got rid of their one child rule, and just because they're facing a population decline, and when you have a population decline, the workforce can't support the older aging generation. So you have that problem big time in South Korea, big time in Japan. You're seeing in a few other countries, and the way the U.S. is going right now, in 100 years or so, we could be looking at the same thing, which is not good. And focusing on family values, I think, is really important. I Now, obviously, there are many loving families that aren't religious, and there are many religious families that aren't loving at all. But at least from my experience, a lot of families that have some sort of religion, those kids they tend to grow in a pretty good household, and kind of goes back to my like base foundational moral values, standard to live by. All those things come into play a little bit more I'd say on average, and I think it sets a better foundation for the kid and for the family in general. And a focus on tradition as well, just because religion is very much based off of tradition, based off of ancient texts and stuff like that, and certain rituals. And I think tradition is a good thing. Obviously, technology and science allows us to live higher quality lives, but there's something unique and special about keeping some sort of tradition, whether that be a religious tradition, family tradition, we just do every single year, take the same trip, everyone gets together type of a thing. I think that's important, and I think that grows and allows people to bond and grow stronger relationships together. So focus on family and tradition. So I don't mean to go on a super big tangent on each one of these. I definitely could, and we can actually discuss that at a different time. Even maybe a Q&A if someone has a question about one of these specifically. But yeah, I could go on and on about all these points. All right, this is a big one for me. A more clear path to being a better person and improving yourself. Just because within religion, everything I've been preaching about so far, standard to live by, base foundational morals, it allows you to develop certain attributes because in a lot of the sacred texts and the prophets and the prominent figures in a lot of religions, they exhibited very unique and good, positive to society and positive to other people and themselves types of characteristics and attributes. So I think of obviously Jesus Christ. A lot of his what we call Christ-like attributes is charity, humility, forgiveness, faith, repentance, the gospel of Jesus Christ. All of those things incorporated really allows someone to be a way better person just for themselves, obviously to help other people. When you have charity and humility, discipline, forgiveness involved, very much a community environment within religion, which I'll talk about in a couple points. But not only just from a good person, a positive for society type of improvement, but these attributes allow you to become successful in whatever you want to do. Not just helping society. Well, in society, if the more successful you become, the more ability, the more resources you have actually to help other people. But you can become a better person. You can apply all these different attributes and these characteristics to your personal life, to your relationships, to your career, to your friendships, to your business. You can apply it to anything and it'll really skyrocket and make a positive impact. So not just strictly spiritual, but this doesn't help you in all aspects of your life. Because you think about these things, like I said, faith, forgiveness, charity, humility, personal accountability, discipline, knowing right versus wrong. Like I said, morals. This helps you become a better human being. This can also help you in the gym. This can also help you in your business. It can help you in all facets of your life. And one of the cool things that specifically in Christianity, specifically in my church, is we believe that we can eventually become like God, and we do as much as we can through the atonement of Jesus Christ, we eventually can be. And that strive for perfection, that strive to be like God, I think is the constant, the eternal journey of self improvement. Because I'm a big self improvement guy. This is literally why I create this stuff, create this content. It's for myself to self improve and to help other guys self improve as well. but it's like the eternal journey. So it's always progressing, always getting a little bit better every single day, always finding what I could do better every single day and reevaluating, reflecting, and then going and doing it tomorrow. I love that. And that's kind of one of the basic core things that we believe in is eventually we can become like God. And in order to do that, we just need to keep improving every single day. So the eternal journey to self improvement. I love it. All right. Next thing that religion can really help you in being successful and having a better life is helps you stay away from negative life altering decisions. So mainly what I'm thinking about is drugs, alcohol, jail, and for me specifically getting a girl pregnant or having a child out of wedlock. And not saying exclusively all these things. Well, yeah, I honestly all these things are pretty bad. You just ask the average person. Just because, especially if you do this at a young age or any age, you take illegal drugs, you go to jail. That's not good for any time of your life. You get super drunk one night, you hop in a car, you get a DUI, or even worse, you get in an accident, you actually hurt someone else because you were drinking and driving. And doing any illegal activity, going to jail, affects you. If you have a family, affects your family. And child out of wedlock, especially if you're super young, if you're like 15, 16, 17, 18, even when you're not prepared or you're not married and wanting to have kids, having an event happen to you like this is can put you in a very sticky situation. No pun intended. But yeah, if you're not prepared for it, you can't provide an adequate, good, a quality life for your kid, and not a proponent of other means of kind of getting out of this, but with religion kind of adhering by some sort of rules or standards, as I like to say, then you can kind of stay away from all this stuff just because these are life altering decisions and events that can happen in your life. Think about random person. Think about Michael Jordan. If he didn't didn't go to North Carolina and go to the NBA and eventually become like the greatest basketball player of all time. What if in high school he got caught doing illegal drugs or he got super drunk and crashed his car or something like that? Like that would alter his life. He wouldn't probably have become the player he was supposed to become, type of thing. Or you look at LeBron James, like based off how he grew up, he could have easily become like a lot of the kids he grew up with, either in jail, having issues, having lots of kids out of wedlock, which I actually think he might have, but he eventually married his girlfriend that he had kids with. That I may need to be corrected on that. I'm not exactly sure, but yeah, that could have changed his life entirely. He wouldn't be the player that he currently is or was. So this religion helps you kind of stay away from all that kind of junk in your life. All right, next one. This is actually really interesting, and I'll probably share my screen a little bit for this one. So obviously I'm a big stats guy, so I was like find correlations of any sort, if there are any, to like religion and success and stuff like that. As far as income, there is no correlation. People that don't have religion, that don't believe in God, have just as good income, if not better income, than people who are religious. There are certain religions that do tend to have a higher income that they're making. The Jewish community is one. But this one I found was very interesting. This one is what do students' beliefs about God have to do with grades and going to college? So, the big highlight of this over the past 30 years, sociologists and economists have conducted several studies that consistently show a positive relationship between religiosity, that's an interesting word, and academic success. These studies show that more religious students earn better grades and complete more schooling than less religious peers. And there's multiple studies that are in this article that are compiled. But I thought it was super interesting that kids that are typically more religious do end up doing better in school. So that, that's pretty awesome. And there's specific, I think, points. Let's see if I can find. I want to say working class teens, religious students reported earning 21% of students reported earning A's on the report card. 9 out of 9% of the people that weren't religious. Um, yeah, so I'll put this in the link in the description so you can check it out if you want. But really cool stuff. So if you're religious, you have religion, the more likely you are to be successful in school. And I think that like if you're a little bit more successful in school, you can be a little bit more successful in life, but that's not a direct correlation. But that's just my kind of opinion. All right, let's go. Last couple ones. Faith is a critical component in success. And I mentioned this one when we were talking about like religion. The many different attributes can help you just become a better person in general, not just spiritually or religiously, but in all aspects of your life. So if you think about success, you have to believe in yourself. You have to put in the work, the effort, the discipline. But ultimately, that first step is you have to believe in yourself, and that's the first step in religion. You have to have faith. You have to have faith of something that you may not necessarily physically see, but you believe it's there and it has influence in your life. And it's interesting. My guy Andrew Tate, he had the story about, or this hypothetical situation. If you're stranded on a deserted island and there's natives there that are, the, the, all right, let me restart the story. So you're stranded on a deserted island. There's natives on the island, but they have a religion that says not to kill, and typically they're not very welcome to outsiders, but because their religion, they believe in a God. They don't have a tangible God or a physical God they necessarily, but they believe it. Then you're spared versus a desert island where they don't believe in anything and they don't like outsiders. They find you and they kill you. Whether you believe in God or not, technically God saved your life if you're that person on that deserted island. So even just the fact of just believing, and I talked about this in the stress thing, the placebo effect, and obviously I have strong conviction that the things I believe are true, and that's another story for another day. But say at the end of the day, if it was like all untrue, false, whatever, it led me to live a better life than I probably otherwise would have lived. So it'll actually, the belief in possibly something false actually led me to become a better person and live a better life and have a higher quality life than if I didn't. So either way, it's like a win-win situation, in my opinion. So faith is a critical component of success and just all the attributes that you can learn in religion. And lastly, community. Community and religion go hand in hand with each other. There are very few religions, and I actually don't even think it's a religion technically, from a definitional point of view, if it's just like you yourself singularly like doing something. I think there has to be a group of people engaging in traditions and rituals and stuff like that. I took a world religions class and we went over the definition of what a religion is, and I believe that's what the definition was. So you having your singular ideology that just you believe in, that's not really religion. It's more like ideology, personal ideology. Religion is, it involves a lot of people. It involves a community of people. So religions institute communities that are aimed to thrive together. I mean, think of, like I mentioned, the Jewish religion, Judaism. A lot of them, very tight knit community, very successful. Muslim community, Islamic faith, they're on the rise right now. Fastest growing religion, and you think of countries like Dubai and Saudi Arabia, like very wealthy countries, very tight knit, that are wanting to help each other. And then you can even think of the LDS people. There's a thing that came out last year about the church, their investment fund having like $100 billion. Honestly, I'm not surprised. The church is very rich, and a lot of the members are very wealthy, and pretty much most churches, if not all churches, it's like there's some sort of tithing. So it's like a commandment that we pay 10% of our earnings to tithing. for the church to help other people and for us to help other people that are in need and to help further push and build up the kingdom of God. But lots of people in the LDS church are very, very, very successful. Now, obviously, there are people that maybe aren't as successful, don't have as much money. But like I said, a lot of these principles you learn in church and religion, the teachings, ultimately help you become a very high quality, high functioning, high performing person. Just because the more you believe in something, the more it can actually happen. The more humility you have, the more likelihood you are to not get over arrogant. Forgive people. Obviously, there's a difference between forgiveness and just being plain stupid. Like, what is it? Like the saying, "It's fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, or fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me three times." Like, I'm thinking of the J. Cole song, but that's an actual quote. But yeah, make a mistake one time, someone kind of pushes you over or kind of tricks you into doing something, then all right, like I'm gonna forgive you. You made a mistake or whatever. But if you try to do it again, I'm not gonna be stupid. I'm not gonna do what you want me to do, type of thing. And the whole concept of is like the African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. That's the same with business and any team sport. But better, the more you have a community of people that you can rely on when tough times are tough, and that everyone can benefit off of each other when times are good, then the further you're going to get, the more successful you're going to get. The ability to thrive drastically increases. So I think communities are a huge part of religion, and I think they're very necessary just because that's the whole point of the religion. People come together and they strive for something greater than themselves and they try to build something greater than themselves. I think that's the beauty of it. All right, I think we're not as long today. That's kind of most of the stuff I had. Any last points? I don't really have, but the reason, kind of a recap of what I was just talking about, kind of missing key to success that a lot of people on the internet aren't really focusing on, I think is a very important aspect of success and can be when if added to your lifestyle is religion. Influencers, they don't focus on that stuff because it doesn't make them money. They can't necessarily sell a course on it. But some of the points: base foundation of morals as a kid, a standard to live by, focus on family and tradition, a more clear path to becoming a better person, improving yourself through religious attributes, helps you stay away from negative life altering decisions. Studies actually show that religious students earn better grades. Faith is a critical component in success, and religions institute communities that can thrive together and are designed for people to come together and to help each other out so that they can reach their end goal. But that's about it for me tonight. I really want to check out the last, well, hopefully just the first quarter, halfway through the first quarter or something like that. But I want to check out this football game. As far as updates, I'm gonna come at you with you live going forward Tuesday, Thursday, 7:30 p.m. Central Time. Let me know if you have any certain topics that you want me to hit on. Currently, we're sitting at, I believe, 38 subscribers. So if you're watching this, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. Implementing some new stuff. I'm trying to improve my lives, every single live. So I'm going to kind of tweak stuff or implement new stuff. I've implemented kind of these different socials, improved a little bit on the setup. I have these different camera angles. Eventually, I think I probably want to invest in a tower, a computer that's a tower, so I can get a little bit better quality live streams and it's not skipping around. I don't have to sacrifice quality for the ability to do new stuff. But that will be a pretty big investment, so we'll see when that will happen. But I'm gonna add an end card, so I'll have YouTube, like there'll be a subscribe button at the end and my most recent video and the suggested video based off of what you like. I'm gonna add that to the end screen. Eventually, I'm gonna do an intro, kind of working on that. And while I was in the airport, that long layover or the long delay, I was experimenting with different intros. I did make an outro, which I think right now will be a temporary one until I actually film an actual outro, but that is a work in progress, and you'll get a little taste of it at the end of this. But as for everything, I'm trying to help you guys get stronger, smarter, healthier, wealthier. So go ahead, fall for more lives, fall for more tips, and as always, stay pumped. All right, cue the outro.